13 ABC. Conklin and Company with 13 ABC Action News anchor Lee Conklin. First with what's happening behind the headlines. And Take 3, our panel of political analysts.
Morning, everybody. Welcome into another edition of Conklin and Company. Today on the program, tackling childhood obesity here in Toledo. We'll tell you about the new effort underway, how it will get done, possibly through chocolate, a fundraiser geared toward helping that cause. Toledo City politics, local Dems coming together. Paula Hicks Hudson, soon to be the next City Council president. Governor Kasich's State of the State address and his wide range of proposals. He was in town to push his plan this week. Guest speaker at the annual Lincoln Day dinner. And before he took to the podium, he took time to talk with 13 ABC's Sean Hegarty, the only one-on-one interview Mr. Kasich granted to a Toledo television station on Thursday night.
Listening to your budget proposal that you made at the State of the State the other day, what do you see as the biggest hurdle to getting it passed right now?
Well, there's a lot of big change in here. I mean, you've got infrastructure programs, you know, where you still keep control of the turnpike, but that we're going to be able to bond against the tolls of the turnpike. That's a big deal. Our higher education piece is you know, significant. Trying to make sure people, when they go to school, they're going to get a degree and not just, you know, go through the motions over there and not have a pathway to make sure that they graduate and have something of value. You know, we have a school funding plan, which some people, you know, that in and of itself takes some people a year. We have a major tax cut plan with a 50% tax cut for small business. And we have expansion of Medicaid to the working poor. These are all big ideas, and the key is to you know, get the big ideas out there, be flexible on them. I mean, you can't have everything you want. I'm sure there's things in our proposal that's not perfect, and you know, and you just work on it. And the only thing that, you know, the watchword is don't be afraid of big ideas, because Ohio's has momentum now. We're doing much better. But you don't want to kind of rest or be afraid of new and big ideas, because new and big ideas move the world. They move companies, they move sports teams, they move politics, they move everything. So just as long as people understand what the goals are and we don't get weak, we should prevail with the large part of the package, I would hope.
Let me ask you about the Medicaid. That has some people riled up. What's going to be the biggest funding mechanism for that? It's going to be the federal government? Yeah,
the federal government would provide 100% of coverage for these working poor people for 3 years, and then it would drop to 90%. This program would allow us to claim $13 billion in Ohio tax dollars to bring it back to take care of largely our working poor population. I mean, there are other poor people who aren't working, but a significant percentage of them are in fact working poor. The problem that we run into is these folks get their primary care in the emergency rooms. They drive up the cost for everybody, and at the same time, the federal government's going to cut out aid to these hospitals who are covering people that don't have health insurance, which can throw them into a big tailspin. And in addition to that, this is a program that could help us to rebuild our programs at the community level for those with mental illness and addictions. I mean, this is about taking care of some of Ohio's basic fundamental problems for people who have lived in the shadows, using our tax dollars to get it done.
So if you're going to rely on the federal government, you know what kind of troubles they have, and when it comes to passing budgets, how much worry that you have that one day their funding might dry up and then it might fall on you?
Well, first of all, it's not going to dry up. I mean, the federal government isn't going to stop funding Medicare and Medicaid. I mean, there will be reforms of those programs. You know, I was the Budget Committee chairman, who in '97 I was one of the architects of the balanced budget. And when I left, we had surpluses. We paid down large amounts of the public debt. We'd cut taxes, and there were a lot of jobs. So these programs are going to have to be transformed, but in the meantime, you don't say, well, you know, I fear about what's going to happen in the next decade, so therefore I shouldn't do anything about my problems today. We'll navigate those changes, whatever they are, and you know, it's part of being practical and being a problem solver. You can't let fear dictate you from addressing some of the fundamental problems you have in your state. And, you know, so I think largely I understand that concern, but I don't think it should be something that prevents us from doing some creative and innovative things here.
Speaking of different things you're doing, a cut in the sales tax, and then some other portions are going to be raised, for example, going to a baseball game. There's some criticism that you might be hitting the middle class more with things like baseball games and amusement parks. What do you say to that criticism?
Well, I mean, look, the fact is that people are going to get an income tax cut to begin with. And secondly, there's a 50% tax cut for small business, which creates over 50% of the jobs. So if you have a small business and you make, $40,000 in income, you'll only pay taxes on $20,000. So our purpose here is to spur economic growth, to get more people working. And income or the regular sales tax. You go to Walmart and you're poor and you buy you buy a shirt for your son or daughter, you pay sales tax on it. In the area of services, frankly, services weren't around when they created the sales tax, and now most of the consumption revolves around services. So the question is, do we want to have an overall stronger economy in Ohio by encouraging small business growth, lowering the income tax, which would benefit people who work and keep some of our best and brightest on the road to keeping some of our best and brightest from leaving the state? And I think when you look at it, some people say, well, this would hurt poor people. Well, there aren't that many poor people that are hiring lawyers or architects, or accountants. So, the overall benefit to the state, I think, would be significant.
The school funding, the plan that you've talked about, trying to make things basically more equitable between some of the poor districts and some of them that are wealthier. What's going to be the big funding mechanism? Make sure you have the money to do that.
Oh, we have the money. The money's there to take care of things. And a lot of the other plans weren't funded, which is why they were found unconstitutional to some degree. We've got the money to do this, and we're running also a $1.4 billion surplus. I mean, when I came in, we were $8 billion in the hole. Now we have a $2 billion surplus, and we have to restore some of that money. We have to give some of that money back under Ohio law because we're over the top in terms of how much is expected to be kept in the surplus. So people will get a little bit of an income tax cut as a result of that. And now I'm getting in the weeds and I'm getting into numbers, but let me just tell you, the school funding plan is all part of the program. And even after we fund it and have a significant increase in school funding, about $1.2 billion in school funding, we still have our surplus. So it's all figured in and the money is available.
I talked to somebody before we came in here today, and he's going to ask you if there's going to be money coming to things like townships. Do you feel as though there can be more money brought into the local area? Because I know some people have said that the state has basically given the local municipalities too much to worry about and has taken from them, and now they're struggling as well.
Well, first of all, counties would get, we've helped counties in a number of ways, and perhaps sometimes counties ought to think about at lower levels of government. But at the end of the day, the single biggest thing that we can do to help local government is to grow jobs. Now we're up 122,000 jobs since I've come in, and we want to continue to grow jobs with our programs. But look, I mean, local governments have to think the same way the state has thought, and that is we need creativity, innovation. We need to make sure we right-size our programs. That is really what is very important in terms of our local governments.
Do you think a lot of local governments haven't changed the way they do business?
Some have not. And we also, have programs to encourage them to share services, figure out how they can work with school districts, or how they can work with other communities to do it. Some have done a good job, some haven't. But at the end of the day, the state of Ohio is giving as much money to local governments as a percentage of its budget as it ever has. But when I came in, we were $8 billion in the hole, and raising taxes was not going to be acceptable. Because if you raise taxes, you become less competitive, and then the jobs continue to flow out of your state, or the job creators go to other states. So the big key to this is to continue to have economic growth. So when you take a look at our plans to fix our roads and highways and bridges, we think that will create as many as 65,000 jobs for people who are going to work to improve the infrastructure. That's a jobs program. Higher ed, graduating students, having the universities and community colleges as an asset to sell to job creators to say, we can get you skilled workers, we can work with you to solve some of your problems that you have. Another job creation. K through 12, you got to have qualified workers, so we're driving improvements in education. Tax cuts, all designed to encourage the growth of small businesses. All these things are part of a program to grow jobs, and the Medicaid expansion is so that we don't leave anybody behind. I mean, if you are addicted, if you have mental illness, if you're extremely poor, we should not ignore you. And I made that clear in my speech. We have to care, and we have to help those people to get up the ladder. And so it's kind of all the package designed to care and also to create jobs.
What would you say is the one thing that is slowing job growth faster than you want it to be in the state of Ohio?
You know, look, first of all, the biggest thing slowing it down is the federal government, because people are uncertain about making big investments. In our state, I still think taxes are an issue for us, but we're on the right path right now. And if we can continue to change and innovate, I believe we can continue to, look, I went over to Switzerland to this big economic thing over there, and everybody was interested in our state. How did you guys, how do you have surpluses? I mean, how are you doing this? Government's not functioning well anywhere. You're up with jobs, your credit is improved, you're running surpluses, you got rid of your deficits, So those things over time, they begin to generate more and more attention. And, Ohio's got a great location. We've got a lot of good things going. We've got to continue to improve education. We've got to continue to work with the job creators, reduce our costs, not overregulate people. All of those things are happening. But, it doesn't happen in a day. But I think we're on the right trajectory.
Governor John Kasich. When we come back in just a minute, tackling childhood obesity. That is on the way right after this.